welcome to a new video. My name is Deja Alize. If you are new here, if you're not, again, welcome back. So today in this video, I wanted to talk about some mistakes that I made as a new grad nurse and how you can avoid them. I've been a nurse for a year and a half now, and let me tell you, I have made so many mistakes that if I knew better, I would have done differently. So I want to give you guys those tips if I can. Like, comment, and subscribe if you like this video. If you're interested in hearing more nurse chats, more nurse tips, let me know. And definitely check out some of my other videos. I'll let you guys know I'm doing laundry. I hope you guys cannot hear my washing machine and dryer, but you probably do, so ignore that. Starting off strong. The first mistake, and probably I'd say one of the biggest mistakes I made as a new grad nurse, was going into a new grad residency. Let me tell you why. I know a lot of new grad residencies are pitched as to be this like super helpful tool for new nurses to get used to the hospital, to get used to their unit, to get used to being a nurse in general. But let me spill the tea on new grad residencies. So first and foremost, I did not go into a new grad residency that had a sign-on bonus. If I did, that would have been an even bigger mistake. What you need to know as a new grad nurse is if a hospital has a sign-on bonus, for you to basically do a contract to stay at that hospital for a certain amount of time, they are paying you to be there. And if they have to pay you to be there, the hospital's not worth being there. They, for whatever reason, cannot keep nurses, whether that be paid, the way they're treating nurses, no growth opportunities. It'll be something of that nature that is making nurses not stay. So that's their way of basically roping in new nurses and keeping staff, because they don't want to do it any other way. And you have to think about it. If they are getting you with a sign-on bonus, why couldn't they just increase your pay? Why couldn't the pay just be better and you get paid that way year round, versus them giving you a sign-on bonus, which is never paid up front. It's never paid before your first paycheck, and then it's broken up so that they can ensure that you are staying at this hospital for obvious reasons, because they need you to stay and they need nurses. And this is the way that they found out they can basically get new grad nurses into doing that, because they know a lot of nurses, when you first graduate school, you probably broke. You was broke all through nursing school, and now you see money and you're like, okay, I can do this. I can stay with this hospital, whatever. And then you get there and you actually see that, okay, I see why nurses are leaving this hospital. And now I've signed this contract, taking this sign-on bonus, and I'm in a new grad residency. So I was in a new grad residency with my first job. I did quit that job and moved on to a job that I have no contract with. I love the hospital way better. I love my job way better. All around, it's just better. Also too, with new grad residencies, is a lot of times they make these promises about the education that you will get, the experiences that you will get, how you'll have someone to basically hold your hand the whole time. And from my experience, I don't know if this is everywhere, but I've seen a lot of places, it's just not the case. Like, they either don't have the staff, or they're not putting in the effort to get you the education. With the new grad residency that I had the general hospital orientation. I had 3 online, basically like Zoom or WebEx courses, where again, they told me stuff that basically I already knew in nursing school, or just policies of the hospital, but nothing to really help me like persevere or be successful as a new grad nurse with all the stress that I was going through, and just like adjusting to the job, because everybody knows that first 6 months to a year is the trenches. Like you are struggling a lot of times with making sure you're getting the skills, making sure you're understanding why you're doing things, learning about orders to see, okay, is this a good order? Do I need to question it? Is this good for the patient? Is there something that I should do? And you're also dealing with a lot of anxiety because people's lives are in your hands. So I feel like they don't do a good enough job in residencies for you to be signing a contract to be with this hospital for a year, 18 months to 2 years, staying at this hospital. And now you're roped into this position. If you don't like it, they try to take actions against you. Whether that be like you can now not use this hospital as a reference, even if you were a great nurse at this hospital, but you figured out that the residency was not for you. Also, not being able to switch around like you need to, because a lot of times in new grad residencies, whatever you sign for as your unit and your specialty, you are stuck with for that contract. And if you switch, a lot of times the residency will start over. It's a scam, basically. It's a scam that hospitals are using to get new nurses. And I know it can be hard not to get into a hospital as a new nurse with a residency, because they now have tried to just integrate this into almost all hospitals. If you don't have experience, in order to get a job, you'll be doing this. But if you can avoid it, please try to do that. It's one of the things that I wish I could have avoided, because at the time there were hospitals in my area that didn't have new grad residencies, and I basically chose a hospital that I was at because I already worked there for the convenience. And from what I was hearing, it was like the better hospital in the area. So the next mistake I would say that I made as a new grad nurse is not going into the specialty that I initially wanted. Granted, the odds were definitely not working with me. They were working against me at that time. So if you've looked on some of my previous videos, a lot of you probably know that I was pregnant in nursing school. When I graduated, I was at the end of my pregnancy, and I also wanted to basically get a job, obviously, because I'm about to have a baby. So I wanted to have that security. And then also too, I would say I probably didn't fight hard enough for the specialty that I wanted. But I'll give you guys the backstory on that. Basically, I was already working in the system at this hospital, and when I went to go for my new grad residency interview, you basically tell them what areas you are interested in, and they are supposed to try to place you into that. So with my new grad interview, I already knew in nursing school, and I knew this before nursing school, I wanted to work in pediatrics, or I wanted to work in like cardiac ICU or cardiac step down. That's where my interest pretty much led. And it had been there since I started nursing school and before. And that's really the only two places I was interested in. My last option, which I did not even voice in this interview, was step down. And somehow I ended up in step down. So basically when I told my interest, I was told that there was no openings whatsoever in the 6 hospital system that I was working in for any new grad pediatric positions. As you guys know, now I work as a Nicu nurse. That's where I initially wanted to be, or I wanted to be in PICU. I was told, without even looking, that there were no spots available for new grads. I later found out that people from my same cohort in nursing school were pushed into these specialties. But somehow I was told that there was absolutely no new grad spots in the residency for those areas. Yeah. Also, mind you, when I started, there were a lot of travel nurses at the hospital I was working at and the system I was working at. So obviously there was a need. But for some reason, I was told that basically there was no pediatric spots available at all. And if you know, you know. A lot of times why they say that, those specialties are gatekept. And going to cardiac, I was already working as a tech on a cardiac unit. and they were hiring a lot of nurses at the time. I know that they were super short, so I thought I was basically a shoo-in to go into the unit that I was already working on. That's why I started on that unit in the first place, as a student nurse, as a nurse extern, PCT, whatever you want to call it. And I was told also that that unit also did not have any spots. Mind you, the people that you would talk to get into the residency and to put you into the unit or specialty that you wanted to be in were not working on your unit. They were basically in like the corporate area, and they kind of just dispersed people as they felt. And there was like maybe 5 to 6 recruiter type people that would do this. Another point I would like to hit on is, in that interview, I was immediately told, oh, I can definitely place you in general, which is med surg. And then I have an assortment of step down units, but not cardiac, not neuro, basically surgical, regular step down, and I think it was like trauma, which, if you know, a lot of people do not want to go straight into, especially after nursing school. I feel like a lot of people want to go into specialties, and it's gatekept, as I said. Little did I know at that time, the step down unit that I was going to was known, unbeknownst to me, known as the worst unit in the hospital. Like, when I would tell people that I worked on that unit, they would be like, oh, bless your heart, pretty much, because it was never staffed. They never tried to staff it. And then they hired a bunch of new grads who either left or were just not equipped enough to basically handle the unit. When I was on the unit, I also got really pushed into just straight up working. There really wasn't, I would say, a training for me. And yes, I do feel like I was pretty confident in my skills, but I did not know a lot of things. And I felt like I was kind of tricked into that unit, to say the least. Even people who worked on that unit, as techs, have said that they would never work on that unit as a nurse, because it was literally known. And most people, if you know, try to work as techs on a unit that they want to work in. And if they don't go into their unit, something is wrong with that unit. Because obviously you've been working here all that time. You have an idea, why would you stay there, you know? But yeah, I felt like earlier I could have moved locations to be in the specialty that I wanted, which was Nicu. I could have moved around. I could have explored more hospitals. But at the time, I don't know why. I just didn't. I just took whatever they said, because I was so desperate for a job that I was like, okay, well, I'll do this for now. But eventually, maybe after a year, I'll try to stick it out for a year that my residency is in, and then go to the specialty that I wanted. Big mistake. Don't waste your experience on a unit that you don't want to be on. Moral of the story. Another mistake I would say that I made as a new grad nurse was not prioritizing my mental health. When I was in that position, I felt like I was in such a bad place mentally because of that unit. And I feel like just was going with the punches, trying to stick it out until it became almost like unbearable to me. Like, I felt like I was going into a depression. Every day when I would leave work, my body ached. I had headaches. I was extremely exhausted from working the normal amount of shifts. Just based on patient loads. Like, I was a step-down nurse and I had 5 patients every single night, or days when I worked days, but every single night, 5 patients. Sometimes I would work with no tech, so I'm doing all the physical labor to basically move patients, do what I need to do, turn patients, whatever, by myself pretty much. The unit was not cohesive as nurses working together. Sometimes you would have nurses that would help each other. Other than that, you have no tech, you're by yourself, you're a new grad, you're trying to figure it out. It's already an anxious time, and there would be a lot of times where on my way to work, I'm crying because I just felt like it was too much. I don't want to go in there. I'm scared. There's no one to help me. I know if something happens, I'm on my own and they're going to throw me under the bus. And I knew there would be no support because the people who were charge nurses were literally only a nurse for maybe a year. Like, we had charge nurses who were there for only a year. We had basically no senior nurses. It was a blind leading the blind, new grads leading new grads. And if you know, you know, that is not the way you want to live as a new grad nurse. Constantly short staffed, super micromanaged. Like, management focus on the smallest, minuscule, petty things like whiteboards. Meanwhile, we don't even have the things that we need to give the patients the care that we need. We don't even have the ratios to give patients the support that we need. I remember one night we literally had 6 to 1 patients because we were that short, and there were no travel nurses brought in at the time. There was no nurses called from float or pool, or they would just not show up, and we would just be stuck to handle it because, like I said, this was known as the worst unit in that hospital. And we would just be left out to dry pretty much. Charge nurses were taking sometimes 2 and 3 patient assignments. And if you know as a charge nurse, you maybe take 1, maybe 2 patients if it's super short, but you usually do not take almost a full patient assignment as a charge nurse, because then you cannot adequately support your nurses who are on that unit, you know. So you're basically just trying to get through just like everybody else, and that is not how you want to be. I felt like I also was dealing with a lot of imposter syndrome. I felt like I never knew what I was doing as a nurse, probably because of the orientation, the training, and the residency that I had. I also felt like I wasn't equipped with the balance strategies. I would say like the work-life balance strategies that I have now. I took a lot of work home with me. If any of you guys literally asked my husband, I would literally be talking in my sleep about the night that I had on the unit, and basically having these like stress dreams all the time, never actually getting full rest, having nightmares about the unit. Like, it was just not it. And I had no way to turn it off, turn it on. And I also had no way to even know how to do those things because I'm the only nurse in my family. So I had no one to really talk to about this. Also too, in nursing school, they really don't equip you with that knowledge of what you should be doing and how you can help yourself as a new nurse or just a nurse in general. And then your job is definitely not going to tell you. Like, the people that I had that were supposed to be my support system from the residency, I can't remember what they were called, like residency developmentalist or something like that. Like, just some made up names to, they're supposed to be your person in your residency. Also did not help. Like, when it came to being anxious or needing help or figuring out how to turn off being a nurse when you're not at work, had none of that. So I feel like my mental health was really suffering when I was at that job. Now I feel like sometimes I have those days. My job is definitely still stressful. It's always stressful being a nurse, but I have learned ways to basically turn off being a nurse, not take my work home with me, or I just dump it like on my first day off, and that will be all. After that, that's all. Also taking like mental health days. I never called out. I never took PTO the entire time I was working at that job, which was about 7 months. Never. And I worked all my shifts. I worked overtime, and it just wasn't a productive environment for me, and it wasn't a good environment for my mental health. So definitely prioritize your mental health as a new grad nurse, because that will literally make you quit the profession. Bedside is already hard enough. Nursing is already hard enough. Prioritize yourself. Always put you first. Again, y'all, I apologize for the noise. But I think that's all the huge mistakes I can say that I made. Of course, I've made a lot of small mistakes during my journey so far of being a nurse, but I think those are the biggest mistakes that I would definitely want other people not to make. And I think it's a very common thing that I see new nurses do, just because of the environment and the situations that we are put in. And everybody knows nursing school does not prepare you to be a nurse. It gives you background knowledge, but it really does not prepare you to be a nurse. You get that basically working on the job, and it shouldn't be that. So it's very easy to make mistakes. But if you guys enjoyed this video, if you want more videos like this, if you have any feedback, please comment, like, subscribe. I try to answer all my comments as soon as I see them. So definitely leave me some of the mistakes that you guys have made that you want other nurses or new grads to basically not make. And I will see you guys in my next one.